Kanye West may be known for his controversial personality and larger-than-life persona, but at his core, he's a musical genius. Today, we're gonna take an in-depth look at the genius behind the production on his debut album, The College Dropout. And we're gonna take the techniques Kanye uses on his production to make our own College Dropout-inspired track 100% from scratch. So let's dive in. Kanye got his start in the music industry by making beats for iconic rappers like Jay-Z, Talib Kweli, and many more legendary rappers from Rockefeller Records. He changed the game with his iconic Chipmunk Soul sampled beats, and his debut album as a rapper, The College Dropout, perfectly captures this iconic sound. So to create our own College Dropout inspired track, let's start out by making our own vintage sample completely from scratch. If you listen to Family Business and School Spirit, you can hear that the foundation of the samples are built off of a nice, soulful piano.
School Spirit, Alpha Step.
So to start out our own vintage soul sample, let's lay down a soulful piano chord progression. Now, in a lot of these soulful vintage samples, they used organs to play the chords as well to give it a super soulful and churchy feeling. So to give this progression some more soul, I copied the piano MIDI onto this crazy organ preset from the Elements of Soul Analog Lab Bank, and this is what that sounds like. If you go back and listen to almost all of the original songs that were sampled on College Dropout, you can hear a live bass line in these samples. Just like in the original sample for Through the Wire, which samples Chaka Khan's Through the Fire. So let's add some live bass to our sample. And the secret to making these live bass lines sound more lifelike and realistic is by adding more rhythm and accent notes in your patterns, rather than just having long sustained notes like this. You want patterns like this. Another sound that's super common in these soul samples that Kanye likes are strings like violins and cellos, just like the ones on Graduation Day. So I grabbed these strings from Contact and played some violins over our sample. Another thing that a lot of these soul samples on College Dropout have in common is they already have drums on the original sample, just like the ones on Luther Vandross' A House Is Not a Home, which Kanye sampled on the track Slow Jams.
Turn this house into a home.
So to truly capture that sampled sound, I added some acoustic drums to our idea. I felt like the music needed a few more supporting sounds, so I added some brass to support the root notes of the chord progression, and I also added a fun little counter melody on the clavinet, which is also a super common instrument on these vintage soul samples. So with all of our instruments together, we get this. Now that sounds nice and soulful, but if you're anything like me, your favorite part of these Chipmunk Soul samples are those crazy vocals, just like these.
Oh, when it all,
Yeah.
all falls down.
This the real one, baby.
Yo, G, they can't stop me from rapping, can they? Can they hop?
Get in the spirit.
So to recreate those kind of vocals myself, I wrote a super simple vocal hook and then I recorded it a bunch of times over top of each other.
Guide me through
the storm. Guide me through the storm. But that's definitely not going to cut it if we want this to pass as a real soul sample. So I hired a super talented vocalist to redo my idea, and this is what we got.
Guide me through the storm. Let you guide me through the storm.
With the vocals done, our sample is pretty much finished. So I bounced it down into one audio file so that I could sample my own loop. And now that we have the sample done, we can get into the real genius behind Kanye's production. But before that, if you want to stop digging for hours to find good samples, or you even want to make your own vintage samples from scratch, I've got the ultimate cheat code for you. I just dropped a massive library of live recorded phrases, one-shots, loops, vocals, presets, and so much more that were made to instantly give you that authentic, soulful, vintage, sampled kind of sound. Just listen to some of these melodies.
Oh Lord, I need your hand again. Oh Lord, I need you. Set me free, oh Lord,
It's like no pack I've ever seen. It's got over 1,700 sounds in it, and they're all from real live instruments and even some performances from Grammy-nominated vocalists. So if you feel like adding some feeling and soul into your music, check the first link in the description down below. I promise you're not gonna regret it. Sampling was nothing new when Kanye released The College Dropout. People have been sampling in hip-hop as early as the 1970s. But the reason that Kanye's beats were so iconic and so genius is because he would take these samples and pitch and speed them up to get that iconic chipmunk sound. So to get that authentic Kanye West College Dropout kind of sound, I'm gonna speed and pitch up our sample from 120 BPM to a more College Dropout Kanye kind of tempo, like 178 BPM, or if you're in halftime, 89 BPM. Now we've definitely already got that Kanye kind of feeling, but the drums on College Dropout really give it that knock and rhythm that blend that soul sample and hip hop together so beautifully. And one of the reasons why they blend together so good is because Kanye actually sampled real drum sounds off of vinyl records and then loaded them into his MPC and used them as one-shots. So to recreate that authentic live drum sound, we're gonna use only real live recorded drum sounds from the Elements of Soul drum kit. And I'm gonna start with some real kicks and real snares to get that bounce and foundation of the rhythm going. Now that's sounding nice, but we definitely want the low end to be a little bit more filled out. If you listen to songs like Through the Wire and all the other songs on College Dropout, Kanye didn't use 808s to fill out the low end. Instead, he used live bass sounds, which really complemented the soul sample kind of sound super well.
I spit it through the wire, man.
And I grabbed a live bass one shot from Elements of Soul, and this is what it sounds like. So now we've got a pretty good foundation, but the bounce of a lot of these College Dropout beats comes from the hi-hats. And Kanye uses some pretty genius techniques with the hi-hats on this album. If you listen closely to the hi-hats on Family Business, you can hear that there's a slower live hi-hat layered in with a faster one that are both playing at the same exact time. Layering two hi-hats like this is a great way to add way more bounce and feeling, as well as giving it a richer and more full sound. So to replicate that, I grabbed a live hi-hat and made more of a slow pattern. And as you can tell, these act more as a foundation that really locks and sets the rhythm of the track. But to get that bouncy and high energy feeling, we need to add in those faster hi-hats underneath. But there's one more hi-hat trick that Kanye uses on songs like Spaceships and All Falls Down. I want you to take a listen and see if you can hear it.
Heaven knows.
She's so self-conscious. She has no idea what she's doing in college. That major.
If you couldn't tell, Kanye leaves the first part of these beats empty of hi-hats, and then he brings the hi-hats in on the second part of the drum pattern, which is genius. This gives the beat a really cool stop and go kind of effect, and this really creates a nice contrast and makes the beat sound super interesting. So to replicate this, let's go back to our hi-hat and delete the first part of the pattern and only let the fast hi-hat play at the ending of each drum pattern. From here, I added a couple more drum sounds to accent the main rhythm, but I still wanted to keep it super simple and stay true to that college dropout sound. Honestly, now the main idea of our beat is done. But Kanye wouldn't be Kanye if he didn't always take it to that next level. So let's add some supporting sounds and ear candy to really enhance the idea that we already have. If you listen to the intro on Through the Wire, you can hear that Kanye has kicks playing in sync with the chord hits of the sample, and he also has this really cool kick roll that leads into the main drop. To replicate this, I grabbed one of the real kick sounds from Elements of Soul, and then I dragged in this kick roll drum fill. Kanye also uses a crazy distorted guitar layered with some real violins on 2 words that play a super simple supporting melody that help fill out and build the beat. So to do something similar, I grabbed these live guitar and live violin one-shots from Elements of Soul, and I put in this super simple supporting melody at the end of every verse. Also, on 2 words, you can hear this crazy snare and tom fill that helps transition the beat from section to section. So I went into the Elements of Soul drum kit and I grabbed a ton of live snares and live toms. And as you can see, I made a ton of different audio tracks right here. And the reason that I did that is so that I could make a bunch of different variations in volume and also panning stuff left and right to give it a more human and big kind of sound. So after messing around for a few minutes to create a cool little drum fill, this is what it sounds like. And after all that, this is what our finished college dropout type beat sounds like.
I love it.
If you like the sample and the drum sounds that were used in this video, make sure to check out Elements of Soul. It's the first link in the description down below. And if you want to learn some 1970s soul secrets that are really going to level up your beats, click this video right here.